Welcome back to Notorious Autosports. This week we are back on Project Zero, my never built Foxbody notch, which it's actually the reason I started this channel, and it's been kind of in the background of a lot of other videos, a lot of other things that have gone on. Unfortunately, it got put on the back burner for quite some time. Life was busy, as I've mentioned in some previous videos, but this week we are getting back into sheet metal work on Project Zero. So we're doing some sheet metal work. When I got the car, there was a section of the floor pan that had a strip cut out of it, passenger rear floor pan, and also the frame rail. And, well, this is what's left of my donor car that I bought for my build, and what I had actually cut the floor pan out of that I'm working on fitting in, grafting into the bottom of the build. The first part of my video, it's actually just going to be a time lapse of what goes through kind of some of the trimming and fitting and testing to try and get a floor pan to fit nice and evenly and do butt weld as opposed to an overlap. You could save a ton of time doing an overlap, but I'll explain a little later in the video why I don't want to do that. But this is what was a 1990 Foxbody notch. Not much left. Yeah. All right, as you can see, trim, fit, over and over and over again. Cut a section out, grind it flush, check your fit, and then repeat it 5 more times. We've got 3 sides of this floor pan now fitting real nice. We're gonna leave that top edge to leave it there to have the floor pan attached via cleco. And if you guys haven't seen clecos before, we have these pliers and this insert, which is the cleco. You guys need to get some for sure if you are doing sheet metal work. We got this pair of pliers, and then we've got this little cleco, and when you squeeze it down you can see the tip extend, and it actually reduces in diameter to be able to get it through a hole, and when you release it, it will actually have this wedge inside that opens those 2 tangs and makes them fit securely in a hole. Demonstration here. So you got one of our mounting holes here that I've drilled, insert, and then release, and it just holds nice and secure. You can put a couple pieces of metal together, overlapping, 2, 3, whatever you need to do, and it holds them securely. It's not like a rivet where you put it in there and then you got to drill it out. You saw me take these things out like 15 times throughout the time lapse there. They are super, super handy for fitting things up and then being able to take them back apart with ease. So I got the back of the flipper actually taken off there, and my chunk of frame rail and the rear bumper support. I'm gonna try and do a test fit with this frame rail and this floor pan and just see how everything's looking. All right, so we got our replacement frame rail. I purchased this a couple years ago from NPD, and it's just the same as what you get from factory, or as close to it as possible. You can see all these holes for all the spot welds that were drilled out to remove the original frame rail by whatever previous owner, which has unfortunately made a lot more work for me. Wish that never happened, but it is what it is. But these Clecos won't hold in that diameter of a hole. So I've got these little square pieces of sheet metal that I made, and they can go in from the top side and they won't drop through. And then I've got corresponding holes drilled in the frame rail to receive these Clecos here. So I'm going to try and get this to sit up there and not fall down while I try and go around the other side to install some Clecos. So we'll see how that works. Alright, not too bad. Couple in there. Alright, we've got it positioned fairly close. We got some that'll definitely keep it in place there for what we need to do here. And then we want to go ahead and actually test this floor pan to see how it sits in correspondence with this tab here. Actually, we're just on the other side of the tab a little bit from this torque box, so I will need to loosen that off and just fit it up a little tighter there. So I noticed my tab here had a little extra bend on it. Could have been from shipping, could have been from moving it around the shop here, who knows, but just referenced off the one on the other frame rail and then bent this down a little bit to flatten it out. Everything's fitting a lot nicer there. Go ahead and we'll get this floor pan tossed on there and see how things are going to jive together. Forgot to remove my testing Cleco from earlier. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of work here, just making this step down a little more. This one down here just drops a little bit more for the floor pan to sit tight over that tab. This floor pan did have a bit of distortion, so I have done my best to try and hammer and dolly it out. In the time of doing that, I did lose a bit of that, so I'm just going to have to smooth that down over there, radius it a little bit, and then things will look like they're going to fit pretty good. I'm happy with that. This is the first time I've ever seen this car with a full floor pan and frame rail that's been this close to fitting since I've owned it, which has been a couple of years now. Unfortunately, the last year I didn't get to spend a lot of time on it. A lot of other things going on in the background, but now I'm motivated to try and get this thing back together, make it a roller, and we might even see it at Detroit Fox Fest. That is right. Motor City Fox Fest and Project Zero might actually be there. Obviously, there's not enough time to finish the car. The paint and body can take months. There's nothing attached to this car right now, but I'm hoping and planning to get it there as a roller. We'll put a K-member in it, some suspension, just drop some wheels on it, put a diff in it, and just kind of go from there. Let you guys see where it's at in person, get it out of the garage, and let it see some daylight again. Pretty exciting. There are some things that have come up recently that I'm actually thinking about changing on the scope of the build. So things like this lower torque box. It's upper to me right now because it's near the ceiling, but you can see they cut this They cut the floor there on the other side of it in line with that. Um, the tab for the control arm is actually missing off the torque box. And originally, when I started this build, I kind of wanted to go at it with an OEM, but better. What would Ford have built if it was 2020, 2022, or somewhere around there as a Foxbody? So I wanted to do that, kind of do a mild built motor, keep a fairly stock black interior, do some suspension work, but you know, kind of not go too wild. The plan all along is to be on a ditch kit, or on air ride and have a ditch kit, I should say. But some things recently have kind of made me change my mind on that. The torque box there, I could weld that back together. I could weld the tab on, keep that OEM appearance. I just don't think I'm going to be happy with it. So for now, so it can make it to the show, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tack this together a bit. I'm going to weld the tab on there. We're going to be able to bolt a control arm in and at least attach a differential. The upper torque box, if you see in here, well, it's missing the entire control arm mount. I have the Wild Rides one to go in there. But again, with these potential changes that I'm wanting to make, that Wild Rides whole real nice laser cut upper torque box might not be applicable. I'm not 100% sure yet. There's multiple different options that could be happening, and I haven't nailed down which one I want to go with. So for now, we're probably going to actually do a 3-link, which is not common in the rear that way, but it'll do the trick. We'll be able to roll it on and off the trailer, and we'll go from there once I finally nail down which approach I'd like to go. Yeah, I got to get some metal work done here. I got to get some primer on some things. I got to do a whole bunch of welding. And all this takes so long just because I'm wanting to try and make all the metal work in here. Like all of these seams, they're being butt welded. I don't want any visual evidence that anything was cut and welded there. Yes, it's a part of the story of the car, but I'd rather not have it overlapped like they do in the factory here. All of this typically gets rust in there because there is enough room in there for oxygen to get at it, and then it just starts to rust. So that's factory. That's going to stay that way, but I don't want anything overlapping here like a lot of people do when they're doing floor pans, because I just want it to look as factory as I can. A couple of the tools I'm using today, over and above the Clecos, are these new Worth Rolock discs, which are awesome for paint removal and metal prep. Really, really good. Works a lot nicer than a wire wheel, leaves a nice finish. That is the package that they come in if you guys want to go and order them. I'll show you them in a little bit here, but it's just worked awesome. Actually, I have, here is all the section that I've done with that prep disc. And this is just sandblasted. Did that in the blasted cabinet last week. As you can see, this has a bit of a different discoloration on it. That is how it comes right off the disc. The discoloration is actually this metal prep that I'm trying out from POR. And what it can do is if there's some minor pitting and areas like this that do have the minor pitting in them, or areas like that, I didn't want to blast too deep with a sandblaster and start wearing away the metal. So that is from the donor car. Yes, I could have gone out and bought a new floor pan. Are they even as thick as a factory one? Who knows? That's a really nice clean piece. Again, it just had that pitting because it's an overlap seam there. So it's bound to happen. But what I did is I took a bit of that metal prep, wiped it on there. You can use a paintbrush, you can use a paper towel, put it on there, and what it does is it seals that up, it converts the rust, and it puts what they call a primer on it. Yes, I will still be actually doing the full epoxy sealer primer on it, but that at least gets me to a good point where I've got good clean metal, I know what I'm working with, and I'm not going to run into issues. The metal prep is actually perfect for some of this porous area. I'm not sure why this is pitted, but it is, and it's blasted all clean. But then from me unfortunately not getting to the car, as you can see in certain areas, we got some surface rust forming. So what I did is I went through and I put that metal prep on here, on that bit of surface rust, and it's completely converted it. Looks really, really nice and gives a good clean finish to be able to seal up and then put our frame rail over top. The drill bits that I'm using for these Clecos are these All-Star 3/16. You can get them on Amazon. They're actually really cost effective and they work really well. Double-ended, works perfect, and there's a 6-pack there, so you've got lots to burn through. But they have lasted really, really long time. I think before, when I was doing all of this with the Clecos, drilling through the frame rail and all of that, I maybe used one, and it might not even have been both ends. So working really good that way. And I think that's about it for the tools that we're using today. The rest of it is just or the special kind of tools. The rest of it's just your normal run-of-the-mill grinders, cutoff wheels. I do recommend getting the thinner cutoff discs for your grinder, the 1364s, I believe. I will double check on that and throw it down here. But they are a lot better as far as that, because there is a mid one that is classified as a cutoff wheel, but it really takes a lot of meat out, and it's like halfway between a proper cutoff discs or cutoff wheel and a grinding disc. So yeah, highly recommend that. I am gonna go and do a little more prep here, and then I've actually got to get some weld through primer along here for when we weld the floor pan through it. Same with on the opposite side on the floor pan itself, and then I want to actually go through an epoxy primer this frame rail inside and out so we don't get any rust buildup in there. And then we can actually get to the point of spot welding it in, which seems pretty foreign, a big step, but one that I'd really like to get done. Thank you guys for watching. I know this is just a little bit of a step into the welcome back to Project Zero. We've got a lot more coming on this thing. I'm excited to get back to it. I'm excited that you guys have the chance to be able to see it. And one day, we'll actually even get this car finished. she's gone.